Yo, what's up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Before we start this video, let's have a quick sip of Stella Artois, the good old wife beater. Beautiful stuff. So this weekend marks the return of Daniel Dubois. Of course, the last time we saw him in the ring was November 28th against Joe Joyce, and that fight did not end too well for Daniel Dubois. Of course, essentially, Joe Joyce made him quit in the 10th round. So, that was obviously a real hard loss to take for Daniel Dubois. Not just the fact he lost the fight, but, given how he lost that fight. Going into that fight, Daniel Dubois was viewed as arguably the best prospect in the heavyweight division, and that night it all came crashing down. So let's be honest, Daniel Dubois has a lot to prove, both to himself and obviously the fight fans that are now doubting him, and he makes his return to the ring this weekend against the Romanian heavyweight Bogdan Dinu. And all in all, first thing I will say, I actually think this is quite a good comeback opponent for Daniel Dubois. Of course, it's a winnable fight, but Bogdan Dinu is not completely useless. He actually does have some skill set. He was a pretty good amateur, and he's only really been beaten when he steps up. Currently, his record is 20 wins and 2 defeats. Those 2 defeats came by the hands of Jarrell Miller and also Kubrat Pulev. Bogdan Dinu got stopped in both of those fights, but when he was in there, he was throwing shots back. He was actually trying until he capitulated in both fights. He actually gave Kubrat Pulev quite a lot of problems. So, all in all, Bogdan Dinu, he's not a world beater, but I think it's the ideal comeback opponent for Daniel Dubois. Ideally, let's be honest, this was the sort of guy that Dubois should have been fighting before he fought Joe Joyce. But that is what it is really. The only problem I have with this fight is that it's for the WBA interim heavyweight title. Now, for me, Daniel Dubois should not be fighting for any sort of world honours whatsoever. I don't care whether it's an interim title, a regular title, what have you. I think that Joe Joyce fight really proved that Daniel Dubois still needs a lot of seasoning, and he's got a lot of learning to do. So despite him only fighting for the interim title, if he beats Bogdan Dinu and wins that title, that only adds to the expectation on Daniel Dubois' back. And right now, to be honest, he's 23 years old, clearly has a lot of learning to do. Honestly, I think he could do without that, having some sort of world title on his back, even if it's only an interim title. For me, when you have any sort of title like that, it still brings a level of expectation on your back, and in my opinion, Daniel Dubois is not ready for that. He's clearly some way off world level, as we saw in the Joe Joyce fight, and for me, the next couple of years for Dubois, given his age, given the fact he's still only 23 years old, should really be rehabilitation and learning fights. I don't think Dubois having that interim title on his back is going to do him any favours whatsoever. Bogdan Dinu for me is a perfect comeback opponent. He's not a complete slouch. He can box a bit. He's got a little bit of power. Good amateur pedigree. He's fought a couple of notable guys in Kubrat Pulev and Jarrell Miller. Bogdan Dinu for me is ideal as a comeback opponent. So I've got no problem with the actual fight, but the fact that it's for some sort of title to me is not really beneficial to Daniel Dubois at this stage. Let's say he beats Bogdan Dinu. I'm looking at him getting in fights with the likes of Christian Hammer, Marius Wack, durable veterans who have been around, who can go rounds, who have experience. These are the sort of guys, in my opinion, Daniel Dubois should be fighting in the next few fights. And if he beats these guys and beats these guys in good fashion, then we can start looking at moving up in levels and taking on more risky fights. But certainly the next 12 months should be rehabilitation and learning for Daniel Dubois. And like I say, I think having some sort of title on your back is not really conducive of that, quite frankly. But all in all, I think Dinu is a solid comeback opponent. I do expect Daniel Dubois to win this fight. We may see him tentative early on, given what happened in his last fight. It might take him a couple of rounds to get going. Maybe even expect to see Dinu have some success early on. But once Dubois starts to get more comfortable, I expect him to go through the gears and maybe stop Bogdan Dinu in the sort of mid-rounds, maybe sort of rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. And yeah, while I expect Daniel Dubois to win this fight, I wouldn't be shocked to see Bogdan Dinu have some success in maybe like the first and second rounds. And honestly, I think that might be a good thing for Dubois if Dinu does have a bit of success early on, kind of thing. You know, maybe Dinu lands some good shots in the first and second rounds, then Dubois takes over, grinds him down and stops him mid-rounds. I think that might be good for Dubois, you know, to reinforce his own mindset that he can take shots, he can take what's coming back at him and then get the win. I think, you know, with Daniel Dubois, it's going to be a steady process after the Joe Joyce fight. The matchmaking before that fight, in my opinion, was pretty poor. Yes, we wanted the Nathan Gorman fight. That was a fight people wanted for Daniel Dubois. We got that. But apart from the Nathan Gorman fight, the level of matchmaking for Daniel Dubois was horrendous. I mean, look at the fight before Dubois fought Joe Joyce, Ricardo Schneiders. I mean, that guy wasn't even a good cruiserweight, and he got moved up to heavyweight to fight Dubois. I mean, knocking over a guy like that is going to teach you nothing whatsoever. All that is really is stat padding and padding your record for an easy KO. The level of matchmaking wasn't good enough when it came to Daniel Dubois, and that's why I worry about this interim title. You know, if he wins that belt, maybe he's going to take another jump that he's not ready for, but we shall see. I think the comeback of Dubois is going to be very interesting. I do believe he's got a level of talent there. He's got a nice jab, he's got solid power, decent punch technique all around. There's some things to like about Daniel Dubois, but still very young, still a long way to go. He was, you know, he had a rude awakening when he fought Joe Joyce. So the key is obviously learning from that and realising where you went wrong and coming back in a good fashion. But in order to do that, he needs the correct matchmaking. So we'll see what happens. I think Dinu is ideal. But yeah, share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I am out. Peace.